Okay, your lesson today is covering sample space. This is actually pretty easy as long as you know what sample space means and where all this is coming from. Sample space is the set of all possible outcomes. So it's the amount of possible outcomes from a probability experiment. Sample space can be represented with a tree diagram, list, or table. So we're going to be creating a tree diagram, a list, and a table today to show you the different ways that sample space can be represented. The first one says that Bailey will roll a number cube and flip a coin for a probability experiment. The faces of the number cube are labeled 1 through 6. The coin can land on heads or tails. Bailey rolls the number cube once and flips the coin once. Create a tree diagram to determine how many possible outcomes there are for this probability experiment. In order to do that, we've got the two items here. We have a number cube and we have a coin. And the number cube is labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if we roll the number cube, it's going to land with either a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 facing upward. Then, so let's say we roll and we get a 1. Then we pick up our coin and we flip it. When we flip that coin, we have two things that could happen. We could land on heads or we could land on tails. And so with a tree diagram, you're branching off to show what could happen. So if we rolled a 1 and then we flipped the coin, we could get heads or tails. Then let's pretend that we rolled a 2. If we rolled that 2 and then we flipped the coin, we could still only get heads or tails with the 2 that we rolled. The same thing would happen if we rolled a 3. We could get heads or tails. Let's say we rolled a 4, and then we flipped our coin. Our chances are going to get heads or tails. If we roll a 5, we have the chance of getting heads or getting tails. If we roll a 6, we have the same chance of getting heads or tails. So we go back and we have to look to see how many different combinations that can be. We could roll a 1 with heads or 1 with tails. So there's 2 for that one event. We could roll a 2 with heads, 2 with tails, heads, tails, 5 with heads, 5 with tails, 6 with heads, 6 with tails. So there are 2 possibilities for each one of these events. So we have 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 things that could happen each time. That's a total of 12 possible outcomes. The other cool thing we can do that's even quicker without creating a tree diagram is we know that the number cube has 6 possible sides, and we know that the coin has 2 possible sides. So we can multiply those 2 things together to find our total possible outcomes. But it asked us to create a tree diagram, so we did that as well. Okay, at a sandwich shop, we can select from 2 different types of bread. We can get wheat or Italian, 3 types of meat, ham, turkey, or chicken, and 2 types of cheese, cheddar or pepper jack. We're going to create a list to show the different possible combinations that can be made if you order 1 type of bread, 1 type of meat, and 1 type of cheese. So let's start with our wheat. I'm going to have W for wheat. We go into Subway, we can say I want wheat bread with ham and cheddar cheese. Or we could want wheat bread with ham or pepper jack cheese. We could also order a wheat sandwich, wheat bread with turkey and cheddar cheese. Or we could get wheat bread with turkey and pepper jack. Or we could order wheat with chicken and cheddar. Or we could get wheat with chicken and pepper jack. So that covers our wheat bread with ham and cheddar, ham and pepper jack, turkey with cheddar, turkey with pepper jack, chicken with cheddar, chicken with pepper jack. So here we have all the possible combinations of getting with wheat bread. Now we're going to do the same thing with our Italian bread, which I'll put an I. So we can get Italian bread with ham or with cheddar cheese. We could order Italian bread with ham and pepper jack cheese. We could get Italian bread with turkey and cheddar cheese. Italian with turkey and pepper jack cheese. Or we could get Italian with chicken and cheddar cheese. Or Italian with chicken and pepper jack cheese. So we have 6 possible combinations with our wheat bread, and we also have 6 possible combinations with this Italian bread. So that would mean that our total combinations, there are 12 possible outcomes. And again, we could take the shortcut, and we know that there are 2 types of bread times 3 types of meat times 2 types of cheese, and we can multiply them together, and that gives us 12 as well. So there are a total of 12 possible outcomes. Okay, our last one, create a table to determine the possible combinations of flipping a coin 3 times. When you are flipping coins, probably the best thing to do is to make a table or a tree diagram, because it does get a little confusing. So we're going to pretend that we flip our coin. The first time we flip our coin, 2 things are going to happen. We can either land on heads or we can land on tails. Okay, let's say we land on heads. So the second time we flip, we can either land on heads or we can land on tails, or we can land on heads or we can land on tails. Then we flip the coin the third time. Let's say the first time we landed on heads, second time we landed on heads. The third flip, our same likelihood is heads or tails. Okay, so my end result for flipping the coin the first time, I get heads, heads, and I could get heads. So you could get heads, heads, heads. If I flip it the first time and get heads, and then I flip it the second time and get tails, my third chance, I could get heads or tails. First flip was heads, second flip was heads, third flip was tails. That would give me heads, heads, tails. Let's say my first flip was heads, but my second flip was tails, and my third flip was heads. That would mean I'd have heads, tails, heads. First flip was heads, second flip was tails, third flip was tails, so I would have heads, tails, tails. Well, let's say on my first flip I got tails. On my second flip I got heads. And on my third flip I got heads. That would be my end result there would be tails, heads, heads. Or I could have rolled tails and then heads and then tails. That would mean I had tails, heads, tails. Or my first flip could have been tails. My second flip could have been tails. My third flip could have been heads. That would give me tails, tails, and then heads. Tails, tails, heads. Or my first flip could have been tails. My second flip could have been tails. And my third flip could have been tails. That would have left me with tails, tails, tails. So we really have to kind of come back and look at this. We go from heads to heads to heads. And then we go heads, heads, tails. And then it goes heads, tails, heads, heads, tails, 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 heads, heads, tails, heads, tails, then it goes tails, tails, heads, tails, tails, tails. So you can kind of see when it gets highlighted how it's branching off to get those end results. So then we just add up the end results. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 possible outcomes. Okay? Or since there's 2 sides to a coin, 2 sides to the coin, and we're doing that 3 times, we would do 2 times 2 times 2, and 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 equals the 8, and that's where we get our 8 possible outcomes. Okay, you will need to tape these into your journal, and then at the bottom right hand of your screen, you need to click the next button, and your assignment for these notes is in Canvas.